Success in farming is all about precision and efficiency, ensuring every seed, every drop of water, every nutrient and treatment counts. Terraplex Ag is helping farmers all over Iowa and the Midwest do just that. With precision ag drone technology and support from Terraplex, you'll boost your productivity and make timely and informed decisions, all while reducing your costs and increasing your profit. It's time to revolutionize your farming. Harvest the benefits with Terraplex Ag. Visit TerraplexAg.com.
Welcome to Williams and Blum Wednesday here on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network. My name is Chris Williams. I am in the Wild Rose Casino Studios. Of course, we are presented by our friends at Mechdyne, the wonderful Mechdyne Corporation. Brent Blum will be joining me here in just a couple of minutes. Today, we'll hit on a few topics, and then we're going to look back at the great Iowa State win over Nebraska from 2009, the whole Paul Rhoads "I am so proud" speech. Maybe my favorite. Honestly, might be my favorite game since I've been doing this. We'll talk about that. We have a lot to get to. Of course, we are presented by Mechdyne, the Mechdyne Corporation. Check them out at mechdyne.com. MECHDYNE.com. They are the presenting sponsor of Williams and Blum, have been for years, and we couldn't do what we do without our great friends at Mechdyne. Also, my buddies over at Game Day Men's Health. I want to tell you about them. They have locations in Ankeny, West Des Moines, and for you Eastern Iowa clones over in North Liberty. And I've been going to Game Day Men's Health for over a month now. Blum, I'm down 17 pounds.
You animal.
Feel really good.
Yeah.
And like it's, you go in there and they like test your blood and they do all this stuff for free. And then they basically give you like recommendations on like, hey, maybe this would help you. Maybe this would help you. But it's a really first class professional place. I know the guy who owns the ones here locally, Bill Morris, just an awesome guy. I've known him for, I don't know, probably 15 years. And I've heard a lot of success stories from not just friends of mine, but other people. A buddy of mine's down like 50 pounds since he started going there. So I would encourage you guys. It's funny, as I turned 40 this weekend.
You're not excited about that?
No, like it's weird. Like I haven't been, like the whole age is just a number thing.
I know,
but
I
like,
get it.
I don't want to turn 40.
I don't either.
It's different for me. Turning 30, I didn't bat an eye at.
40 is like a weird number.
It makes me actually feel old. Like
You're right. The old saying, "Oh, you're over the hill."
But I don't like.
But that's where you go to Game Day Men's Health because you're looking younger than you did even 2 years ago.
Very spry.
Yeah,
I don't feel physically old.
that's good.
I feel like I'm 25, which is a problem because then the next day I don't.
Right. Speaking my language.
Yeah.
Speaking
How are
my
you
language.
today?
I'm good.
Busy camp day yesterday?
Busy camp day. Yep. Had our We Will basketball camp with the women's basketball team, and it was awesome. Sold it out.
Nice.
A couple other sellouts already. So it's hard to get can't get a camp this year. However, there is a Fab 4 camp, not run through us.
I saw that
through our friends at Elite 360 that also supports those 4 freshmen. So you can get, but it was awesome. I mean, met a bunch of Cyclones again yesterday. My oldest got to play his first ever basketball camp, and he had.
How'd he do?
He had a blast. Now he thinks he's going to be in the NBA, of course, because he
NBA draft is tonight.
Yes. NBA draft is which is weird. It's a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then it's a 2-day deal.
Yeah.
Long story. I'm getting old because I was like, that what? Like I had to look that up today.
I'm going dirt racing. We usually watch it together. I'm going to the dirt races instead.
Where are you today?
Yeah. Going down to Oskaloosa. I'm going with Jeff Kelderman.
Yay.
Gonna go and hang out with Kelderman tonight.
But Everett had Kelsey Jones and Kenzie Hare as his coaches yesterday. Oh, two great people.
Yeah.
You guys are going to love Kenzie Hare. She's a great player. And awesome
you were
kid.
raving about her. I bumped into you last night. And Bloom was just like enamored by how good she was with your kid.
She was awesome, like complete rock star, and super excited for fans to get to know her. And this entire team, it's a first class program, like it really is, top down, and they're going to be really good, really good.
Yeah, I think so.
The
too.
Oregon State kid's not on campus yet. Did you know Oregon State has class until June 20th?
Well, I know that the whole Pac-12 thing's different. Like
It's
their
bizarre.
academic calendar and stuff,
Like they don't
because
start
those
till like October.
and they're not like officially, those schools aren't officially in the Big 12 until
July 1, I think.
Yeah, it's late. It's later than like the normal switch.
So
because the ACC's having that problem with Cal and Stanford too.
Interesting. Yeah, I was like, she's not here yet. They're like, no, she's not here yet. Anyway, she's coming.
I just want to watch her shoot threes. That's all
That's just the lefty stroke.
Lily, right?
Lily.
Yeah. Man, can't wait. That's going to be an awesome year. I really can't wait for all that.
It's going to be, there is a lot of good things happening with Iowa State basketball.
No doubt about that. Things. And we both heard a few rumors yesterday with some men's news, and like there's good stuff on the horizon. So everybody look forward to that. Here's the situation. We're just being totally transparent with you guys. I'm going to go on a teeny little camping trip over the weekend. So we are going to pre-record Williams and Blum Sunday. We're going to knock that out today, where that show, so it will be an evergreen show. It will not be covering any sort of news. We are going to look back at the Aaron Kraft game.
Oh.
I thought it could be more like we look back at that entire NCAA tournament run.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. Like that whole deal, because they played Notre Dame and punked them, and that
team is super underappreciated.
Yes, I agree. That's like the forgotten Hoiberg team.
Totally.
Yeah. So we're going to do that one on Sunday. As I mentioned today, we will do our look back at the 2009 Nebraska game. Again, perhaps my favorite win of my, not the best win, but my favorite. And I'll explain that when we get to it. Blum, just a couple other news and notes. The draft is tonight. We don't need to spend too much time on it. There's really no Iowa State.
It is a bizarre
interest this year.
It is a bizarre draft.
Is this the least amount of buzz? Because you're an NBA guy, like, and you love the draft.
I love the draft.
This is the least excited I've been for a draft.
And usually these are the ones that somebody will pop. Like I remember the year Giannis got drafted. Everyone's like, "Who's Giannis?"
Yeah.
So you don't know for sure, but also there's just not a whole lot of high end college guys. And again, it comes back to NIL, because a lot of them are just staying around. You know, the highest level college guy that'll be picked is Klingon from Connecticut, he was obviously a very good player, but it's not like he's a household name. And then the biggest
return of the big man.
And then the biggest question is Bronny going to get picked by the Lakers? And the answer is yes. But that's a second round thing.
Going to make people hate him.
Yes.
And I don't even hate his dad. Like I'm a Jordan guy, but like I don't hate LeBron. I've always really liked and appreciated him for what he is. But like I don't like the whole holding a franchise hostage to take my kid.
Yeah, and
that's
although
so entitled,
a second round pick.
Yeah,
I mean they're picking like 55th. It's like, okay. I mean, most of those guys just get stashed anyway. I'm not going to lose a lot of sleep over it. However, it's a very LeBron thing to do. You just go through this mock draft and it's like, man,
it's very bland.
It's a couple Kentucky guys, like Reed Shepherd is going to be a top 5
first
pick.
Big 12 guys at the Baylor kid.
Yeah, Jacoby Walter.
Yeah,
most likely. But that's just no Iowa State guys will be involved. I have heard some of the seniors are already overseas and got gigs, which is cool. Guys like Rob Jones.
Oh, okay.
And Trey King.
That's good.
They're already over there. So, but yeah, This will be interesting just because there'll be trades, and trades are always interesting. But you go through this mock, and it's like, whew, I can't name a bunch of these guys because a lot of them are going to be international kids.
Okay. So we have that coming up.
Yeah, Jacoby Walter will be the first Big 12 guy. He'll be a lottery guy, but probably 11 or 12.
Yeah, it's pretty bland. The other news I wanted to get to, it was a Matt Norlander tweet yesterday that
this is big time.
Iowa State will be in this Vegas NIL tournament in 2025. So how does that work? If
Iowa State hasn't reported that, by the way.
It's Matt Norlander.
Matt Norlander.
Yeah,
and I that was the first I heard of it.
I hadn't heard it either.
Gonna be frank with you,
yeah, so we don't even know. But I mean, Norlander's pretty good.
Yeah,
like he's not. This isn't some random dude we're talking about here. How does that work? So basically, every team that plays in this tournament just gets X amount of money for their players.
Yeah,
that's simply it.
It's exactly what it is. So here's how it works, at least this year. I think it's going to be the same next year. So this is it's a event put on by this company that has funding. That funding is somewhat controversial because there's some venture-backed stuff potentially from overseas. But long story short, every team that plays in this gets $1 million, and the winner gets $1 million in NIL funding.
So the winner gets $2 million.
The winner will get $1 million plus one. Yeah, so $2 million.
Wow.
And so literally the interesting part here is obviously Iowa State playing in this because we have to scratch and claw C-Dub to get to $1 million. You know this.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a chore, and so to get that just by participating is amazing.
Is this an ESPN run?
No, and this is what's controversial about this.
Because I thought Iowa State was in all these ESPN tournaments.
But like this is the interesting part. If the Norlander tweet said Baylor backed out of Maui,
which is crazy,
which is an ESPN run tournament to play in this because the ESPN won nothing with NIL. There's no payout at all. It's more of, hey, you're on ESPN.
Backing out of Maui in general, like that's the golden standard for these preseason tournaments.
This is where it's going. If you don't have extra incentive for teams to play in this, they're not going to. You're going to see this. All of these multi-team events are going to have to go to this NIL game.
Fascinating.
And then the second part of this is bowl games are going to have to do the same.
Well, I've been telling you guys to do that.
You've been on that, but this is where
Jesus.
Even the
you get a Bass Pro gift card.
Yeah.
No, give them $10,000 and see if they want to play.
And so you've got these schools.
I mean, come on.
If it's hard to raise $1 million, it's a lot easier if they say, "Here you go."
Some of these ADs are just going to be kicking and screaming at these.
Yeah, and
some are.
Yeah, because you know who's going to be kicking
give them
and screaming
less money
is ESPN and Fox.
Well, pony up.
Well, that exactly
right. Like this is what disruptors do, right? Like this is. And it forces it's like what Liv has done to PGA Tour. Take the Saudi thing out. Like I'm not being controversial here. Liv shows up and the PGA Tour has had to change a lot of things. And hopefully it's for the better. And if this is an evolve or die world, and these players are going to keep getting theirs. And
yes, they are.
This is fascinating. The fact that Scott Drew calls up Maui and be like, hey, we're good.
We're good. We're going over here.
What? That's insane.
And this is why it's important that Iowa State remain competitive.
Yeah,
because they're not going to invite slappies to these tournaments.
No.
And to get $1 million, I'm telling you guys. So this will be huge. And
do they have to spend it on the current team?
I don't know all the mechanics, and this is why it's.
And I also would that. I know you don't know anything about it. Would that $1 million go to the collectives, or let's say everything's in house by then?
Correct. That's why there are still a lot of unanswered
do they have to split
questions.
It with the volleyball team? Do they is Title IX involved?
I don't know. This is a report. I've heard murmurs on the back end, but nothing official. So I'm not saying Norlander jumped the gun because Norlander knows what he's talking about.
He's very connected.
But it's hard to know exactly how this is going to work still.
Yeah.
Do they pay the players directly? Does it go to the collective? I mean, these things are great.
Yeah.
Great
I mean,
questions.
does a red shirt get the same amount as the starting point?
Is it up to the collective to decide?
Yeah.
Again, great questions. But this is not the only thing I would say that Iowa State basketball is looking at as far as augmenting the fans' funds.
Yes.
And I think this is good for the fans, honestly, because I'm not saying that the fundraiser guy says, hey, we still need your funding, especially in the short term, because this isn't until next year. But we are looking into various ventures that we can now do to raise money that are just more than just, hey, give me your $5.
Get something out of it.
They get something out of it. Exactly. So there's more things on the horizon. And I think, for Iowa State basketball, where I keep saying things are going really well, you got to take advantage of being a top 5, top 10 team right now. And that is, pour as much as you can, because in this NIL world and this just revenue world, it's a lot easier to stay competitive than get competitive. It's impossible to play catch up, especially at a team at Iowa State. And so you got to take advantage. You have a top 10 team. You have a notable group right now. Let's get as much out of it as we can. Exactly. Yeah. And TJ is perfect because he knows it's no coincidence that Creighton's playing in this year's tournament for this thing and next year. I mean, they are at a massive advantage. I think the Creighton job, it might be a top 3 job.
I completely agree
in men's basketball right now.
Completely agree with you. Like the thing that most people don't get about Creighton, because they'll be like, oh, well, Villanova doesn't have a football team either. Correct. Villanova has Philadelphia to compete with, right? Exactly. Like they've got Pittsburgh to compete with. They've got pro sports. In Omaha. Creighton basketball is a professional sport. That is how they view it. All those surgeons and stuff, and then the financial hub.
Yep.
Right there in downtown. We were there at the arena for the NCAA tournament last year. It was actually very beneficial for me because I was in that area a lot, right? And Mac has equity in a sports bar down there that I went and sat in, and I'm talking to a bunch of these people.
I got a story about that here.
But they are all in on Creighton basketball. Like they will win a national championship in the next 5 years.
They're on the path,
and he's a good enough coach.
So that restaurant was started by Doug McDermott.
Really? Okay.
And another former Creighton player.
It's a sweet restaurant.
But they give 10 to 15% of all money that rolls through there to their collective. That collective made close to $800,000 off that restaurant last year. I mean, that's an advantage that they had.
And they don't have a football team.
They don't have a football team. So that's why Iowa State needs to do these things. I know people is this really with the path you have to play the game.
Mac has done a great job too of making that program cool. Right? There's a branding around that program over there. If you look at and I don't know how much he has to do with that, I guess, but their gear, downtown Omaha is Creighton. There's not a lot of Nebraska
basketball stuff, right?
You don't see it, right? And they have a great fan base too, for what it's worth. If you watch Hoiberg's games, they're selling that thing out. Yeah. They get a lot of support. But Creighton basketball is a pro. It is their pro sport, and it has become what Nebraska football is to all those people in the fall.
Yep. And the third part of this wheel with the Creightons, the Gonzagas, some of these basketball only schools, it's also why the Big 12 is more than likely not going to add any basketball, because they have just a huge advantage, and it's going to be hard. And then the other notable
thing, Bill Self, why would you want to add Mark Few when he has that advantage over it? Because it's not like Lance Leipold's going to go anywhere.
The good news on the TV front, it's kind of good, kind of bad. The Big East is going to sign a really large TV contract with, I think it was Turner. So the fact that Turner lost,
they're basically treating them like the NBA.
Yeah. Turner, it was CBS, and I'm forgetting somebody else. Fox.
Fox is still in there. They're getting some biggies.
But that's basketball only.
Yeah.
And I guess that leans into your Mark's decision to really go basketball heavy and maybe separate those contracts. So that could be a play that works.
So Turner, in theory, could pivot off of their NBA and say, we're going to take the Big East and the Big 12.
Correct.
When that next one comes around.
So If you're a Big East school, you are, and you're a Creighton, you're a Villanova, you're a Marquette, you're having a good time right now. You're a Xavier, because these schools are going to have a big advantage on that point. Football still drives the bus. Football is always going to be a huge moneymaker for the school itself.
Correct.
But for these basketball programs, they are in a good spot. And this players only tournament, I am glad Iowa State is pursuing this. I think this is super smart. It's what you have to do, and this is going to become the norm. And this Vegas, again, I don't know how the dollars and cents add up. I don't think they do, honestly, because there's no way that tournament is going to make $25 million. Zero chance. But if
the only thing, it's like sponsorship. It's thrown out. Like, let's say a semi-desperate company that has money, like Under Armour, is, hey, we need to get front and center. This is, a lot of people are sitting around watching TV. We'll sponsor this tournament for $15 million, and then all of a sudden you have a lot.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that to me is where
I'm just really curious how, and then what does this mean for other multi-team events? And even those one-off
they got to start paying the guys.
Well, and then the one-off non-conference games, you're going to see a lot of made for NIL games. That's just what it's going to be. Like the games in Sioux Falls, those are all going to be NIL games now. It's not going to be Iowa's playing Gonzaga or Iowa State's playing Colorado just for fun. You're
going to see Iowa State and Creighton and the players. Yeah.
You are going to see actually potentially
you'll see a lot of
better games that are directly NIL funded.
A lot of these coaches that are buddies too team up.
You got it.
In that sense.
Yeah. Because they want to make sure that
it's going to be like, Tang and Drew working together,
exactly.
like that type of stuff.
So this is, and I do think this is coming for college football next, where like
these bowl games, it's so stupid the way it's done right now. But it does sound like, at least with the bowl games, once this thing goes in-house, they're going to have to play in them. Like, that's going to be a part of their like pseudo contract. Yeah. Although they're not employees, so how can you force that? But that's a whole other deal.
The interesting part is the in-house thing is getting a lot more foggy in that most places, from what I'm understanding, and there's still a lot of details here, it's actually going to be the school is going to pay a third party that $20-some million. It's not going to come from the school itself. And so that gives the third party.
So we need more middlemen.
Well,
this is why Audie Crooks shouldn't sign her name over. Well, this is exactly why.
But it separates then the reason why the schools are pursuing this. It keeps them out of litigation.
Mm-hmm.
Because they could say, no, we're just paying.
We don't have anything to do with Title IX.
They're just paying this third party, this collective over here. And so I don't know, a lot.
I get what you're saying. It's plausible deniability.
Yeah, because if there's so much more issues with the school itself signing a player, even to an NIL deal, than if a school is just giving $20 million to a third party to run its NIL program. See where I'm going?
Yeah, I get it. It's like, in my world, it's like these advertising agencies.
Exactly.
We don't want to handle our marketing, so we're going to give you $20,000 a year, and then you're going to disperse it for us and get commission on top of it.
There you go.
But that's my point, where if that happens, I hope it's people who are local.
Yes. Great point.
They got to be local. And I know it's not going to be like mom and pop shops. Like, that's not what I'm asking for. It's probably going to be a wing of Learfield or whatever. But like when Learfield handles all the radio broadcasts and the TV or whatever, they have local people who are out, who are selling in the community.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want a boardroom in DC deciding the value of Mackenzie hair.
Yeah.
Locally.
It's a great point.
Because they don't know.
It's a great point. So
if it's true NIL, and this isn't going to be true, I hope they prove me wrong. I don't think this will be true NIL.
I just think from an Iowa State perspective, this is interesting that I would say Iowa State in the NIL space has intentionally been conservative. I think everyone, even in Iowa State's going, we see the train running away. We better start to at least consider some of these things that we would not have considered 6 months ago.
Well, there you have it.
And that's why Jamie Pollard
2025
he's a very pragmatic individual. If you got to keep up.
Cash money.
And this is kind of where it's going.
Cash money, baby. Thank our friends at Gravitate Co-working, gravitatecoworking.com. If you are in the Des Moines metro or locations all over the great state of Iowa and you need conference space, they have conference rooms that you can just rent like by the hour. And so then you don't have to worry about that machine. Is
that a fax machine?
No, that's a espresso at Starbucks.
Oh.
You don't have to worry about that because at Gravitate Co-working, you have your own closed-in conference.
Whenever you're on a call, like a coffee machine, it's like, I can't hear you. Somebody's making
the worst.
Somebody's making a latte.
For a guy who's worked in coffee shops for 15 years, that's the worst. Also, thank our friend Hope Wood. Guys, football season's right around the corner. The cardiac clones will be back in some capacity. I am anticipating most of these spreads on this season are going to be in the single digits. It's going to be an anxious year. Is your ticker ready for it? I hope so. But I'm saying if it's not, you better have your will in place. HopewoodJD.com. It could all end tomorrow. I'm sorry, but it could. HopewoodJD.com. She'll get your will done in a day. Mentioned to you, I'm going down to Oskaloosa tonight with my man Jeff Kelderman down at Kelderman Manufacturing. Gonna watch some dirt racing.
Who's racing?
Main man Charlie McKenna.
Where is this, the Outlaws thing?
No, this is just late models. Our buddy Kurt Schroeder listens to the program a lot.
Kurt.
Chris Speaker, he listens to the program. A lot of the guys who are racing tonight listen to Cyclone Fanatic all the time.
What are they doing on a Wednesday? I thought these were Friday things.
Well, they do like what are called swings. So what they'll do is,
of course, swings.
They'll do like 4 nights in a row. So what happens is a lot of these guys can take like a couple days vacation
from their jobs.
Yeah, to go and lose all their money racing.
Well, okay.
I'm going tonight.
I have questions now.
I'm going tonight, and then I'm going down to Corning on Saturday.
What happens if you crash your car in day 1 of the swing? Are you out for day 2?
Fix your car.
Just fix it on the spot.
Fix your car.
Does that separate the good ones from the great ones? Is your
No, I mean, it's not that hard. Like you have all these. I mean, if you total it, that's different.
Okay.
If you crash it, most of these guys at that level, they're not just screwed.
They have backup cars.
They have many do, but they have parts. Oh, okay, we broke that part. We'll take it off and put another one on.
Here you go.
It's not like what you do and be like, well, I'm just hire somebody to come. No, they fix their own shit.
Take it to the service center. Wait for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Go down to Williamson's and Bondurant.
Can I rent?
You got to race again tomorrow.
Let me go to Enterprise and rent a car to race.
They're running for points, man. Come on. I also want to encourage everybody to go out and buy yourself a bottle of Cody Road bourbon. There's nothing more American than Cody Road bourbon for the 4th of July.
I had somebody I talked to this weekend, like, you know what? You guys on that Wednesday show do it in the morning. You got that Cody Road just out there. And he's like, that's not good for my work productivity because I actually
did a pod for Iowa Everywhere yesterday with Sipker where it's actually, don't let it turn you out. I'd encourage you all to listen to it. We did a preview for the presidential debate. It's pretty funny.
Because when I think of my presidential analysis, I go to Spopker.
That's what's funny about it. That's why it's entertaining.
Yeah, okay.
But we started drinking at like 10 yesterday because it was like, well, I mean, look at what we're previewing.
That might be the only way to get through that tomorrow.
We need to drink.
That could be electric.
Also, don't forget our friends. Been thinking about our friends
yes,
up in the Okoboji area and all Northwest Iowa. Devastating. The flooding that's going on up there. And I know we have so many listeners who have supported us over the years and it's not lost on us. And we're thinking about you. Our friends from Westo have been doing some very kind things, making hot dogs for people.
Yeah, they gave away, I think, like 1,000 brats and hot dogs in Spencer yesterday.
So
for free.
We've just had a rough go with the tornadoes and the flooding and just we're thinking about all of you. And I thought that was cool that our friends from Westo, Matt, the owner there, is just a salt of the earth guy. And that didn't surprise me. when I saw that they were doing that. But support good people who support us, and Westo Brewing is definitely that. Go buy yourself an Ames lager.
Yeah, they are just incredible people, and that's one of the reasons why we're so fired up about the Ames lager. Is one, it's great.
Yeah,
it's support.
And then Ian told me to put a lime in it. By the way,
yeah, lime. Ian, their sales guy.
Yeah,
who's a great golfer.
He listened to us. I think it was last week, and I said, "What can I put in it just to give me a little bit of tropics?" And he said, "Lime goes very good with the Ames lager." So there you go.
There you go. But great people, support them because they're great people. It also helps NIL clearly, which is a need. Only beer that does support NIL, by the way. And yeah, they're doing some really cool things. I talked to somebody yesterday at our camp, and he lives up in that area. One of his friends was going house to house with his boat and like literally on the streets of Spencer, picking people up. And he said, "This is why we live in Iowa, though. Just people take care of each other."
Absolutely.
And he's
and
like,
when Greenfield happened, they were like having to turn people away because people were just wanting to go and help.
And same thing, like they have Spencer got enough ice and water for everybody, like almost overnight.
I don't think you could pay me to leave this state, honestly. I don't.
Stuff like this is why
I'm going to California.
Yeah, they're not going to.
Ain't happening.
They're not doing that in New York City.
No, certainly not. They don't even know your name.
Kudos, but that's why it's multi-layered here. It's why we like working with local folks, is because they're going to take care of their own people.
All right. Today's look back. I wanted to do it to honor Coach Rhoads.
That was an amazing conversation.
Yeah, who was on with Jeff and Grant. And by the way, those guys are just killing it. Their show's called Kicking It. It should be called Killing It because they're doing an amazing job.
They got another name next week.
Big one next week.
Big one next week.
It's going to be a windy episode.
It's going to be windy
episode.
Buckle up, baby. Tighten them seatbelts. It's going to get wild. So they had Rhoads on, and I admit I have not got to listen to the entire thing. I'm like a third of the way through it. Rhoads, to me, ages really well.
Absolutely.
Right? Like in the sense of like how Iowa State fans view him. The longer he's gone, the more people will love him. And he was never disliked.
Never.
Like most fans did not want him to get fired. Now, should he have been? And like, was it time? That's a different conversation.
Yep.
We all liked him.
Yep.
These memories with Rhoads, they don't sour. They marinate everything. In this 2009 win at Nebraska, so it holds a very special place in my heart for personal reasons. But it's very Oklahoma 2017-ish.
Yep.
Not the same level, not the argument I'm making. But when you factor in all the guys who were out
crazy
in that game, backup quarterback, backup running back, you really don't have receivers. No offense, Jake Williams. I love you, brother. One of my favorites.
Yeah.
You're really a limited team.
Super limited.
Defensively, I would say a pretty decent
pretty
team.
good with just
pretty good team.
But just no high-end NFL guys, but just solid. Like just some really good dudes. I thought the guy is really underappreciated. David Sims. David Sims, he played a little bit in the NFL. And that guy was a dude.
I always thought he was like a little bit of like Bob Sanders-ish.
Yeah.
That type of where he just was kind of a headhunter.
He was a undersized, just, but he would hit you now. And then I take that back. Leonard Johnson was on that team. So Leonard obviously played in the NFL. So yes, defensively, Iowa State was pretty solid. It's just the ramifications around that game. I mean, you got to look at it as Iowa State had not won in Lincoln since 1973. And this is Rhoads' first year. You're coming off Chizik, who nobody really liked, and you get this breath of fresh air that's Paul Rhoads, and the guy absolutely loved Iowa State. And I think that is the lasting impression from his era, and it was so needed for Iowa State at the time.
He's the guy who filled up the stadium.
He did. Paul Rhoads deserves so much credit for the growth of Iowa State. And you look at the record and you go, well, how is that? If you experience the Chizik era And Chizik was part of that too. And I thought it was really cool. Rhoads gave Chizik some credit for the way he recruited, and they are able to keep most of those guys there. A different era of college football where the guys didn't transfer as often. And so he gave him credit. But Paul endeared himself to this place, and there was no question that he loved the job. He absolutely loved the job.
This game also produces one of my favorite YouTube clips ever. Let's check.
10 yards, but he is going to be their starter.
In
the backfield. They're averaging about 150 yards a game to the ground. Heller gets 103 of that.
Just watch him enjoy, everybody.
He's got it up to the 30.
If you're listening,
lost the football
here's some highlights.
and Iowa State's got it. Coming away with it, Kennard Banks.
Kennard Banks.
So right away they strip it.
First play of the game.
That's a tough matchup to go against Texas.
Zach Lee.
On this series.
Nebraska aired by 22 points in this game, by the way.
Is it taken in? Still
got it.
And they say Sims has a pick and never hit the ground.
Well put together.
Yes,
man.
yes,
Holy man. One of my favorite players from that team, remember Big Nate Prayer?
Big Nate Prayer. The crazy part is all of the reviews in this game when I was with Joe.
Nebraska on their third down tries. Now going deep. Paul's there. Paul's got it over the
There's
shoulder.
no way. Miles Paul.
Stop ball!
Almost since Iowa State.
And it is covered by Iowa
Miles
State
Paul was
in
the
end zone.
first cousin, I want to say.
James Smith from the area.
Miles Paul was still at Bates. There was a
Yeah,
connection.
right.
And did the ground cause the
And
fumble?
the crowd shots are just epic in this game.
Because this is when Nebraska still thought that they were going to turn the corner and be like the Nebraska Bulls.
Absolutely.
In the stadium in this game, this is the pinnacle of life. Other than the birth of my children, this is the greatest moment of my
How
life.
many times did it fumble? Inside the 10-yard line.
The 10-yard line.
When he goes to the ground, the ball's coming out. I'm wondering if he is happy.
My guy Mike O'Connell.
I don't call him last week.
Ball came out prior to the run of me down.
Yeah, look at all CPR. The fucking best, man. I love Rhoads.
Iowa State, fourth giveaway for Nebraska, and they continue to kill themselves. Fort North High School, the left guard
Chris,
retired.
I'm going to make it feel really old here, as they're going to fumble again inside the 10-yard line. Incredible. Paul Rhoads, in this game of play, is 41 years old.
James Smith has it. Do you believe
So much more manly than
Wasn't he?
James Smith.
James again.
Just everywhere.
He was everywhere.
Leonard Johnson kind of
Just
tripped up the
real.
receiver going in to score.
We need to open a bottle of Cody Road and watch this game in its entirety. We got to do that. First down close.
I was just living right.
now on third and long? Looking one way, going back the other way. Middle screen. It's out. Iowa State's got it
James
again.
Smith.
Took it away from
The guy
But
Rumpelhammer.
the thing we're not seeing here is that Iowa State's got all the ball all this time. They can't do anything either.
Hey,
It's Jeremiah Schwartz for
like it was the one play. It was the 500 play. You know, like when you're in the backyard.
500. Exactly.
My guy Jesse Smith. No, it's
O'Connell,
O'Connell.
go.
And they needed another turnover after this. Like they get the ball with 3 minutes left. You think the game's over? No. Iowa State.
Look at that lady.
As the phrase says, the Iowa State offense at this point, couldn't be a drop. They got the ball back like a minute later. Here they go again. Jesse Smith.
Look at that loser.
Horn stop.
Jesse Smith. It's fitting. He
Oh.
comes away with it. First win in Lincoln for Iowa State since 1977.
And Frere got the pressure.
So here's
on
my
the
story on that
quarterback.
day.
Lee got hit as he
I could watch
the
that
night
and I
before-
do watch that 10 times a month.
The night before was my last night working at KMA Radio. My first day with Cyclone Fanatic full time was the Monday after that game. Okay. And Chuck Morris, Chuck,
Oh yeah.
brought a bottle of Maker's Mark to the scoreboard show. So I used to host this scoreboard show that we get off the air at midnight And then you have to cut up audio. Like you usually get out of there at 2 a.m. on a Friday. And got all our work done, and we drank the whole bottle of Maker's Mark, okay? Me and him, and I think it was Derek Martin who was with us. I don't know. There's three of us.
How did you function the next day?
Well, listen to this. This is great. So we always did a tradition when Nebraska and Iowa State played, where all these Clarinda people, when it's in Ames, like Carpers and my parents would host.
What is Clarinda to Lincoln?
Hour 20.
Okay, so that's actually closer
way
than
closer
Ames.
than Ames.
Got it.
We would host. When it's in Nebraska, the Poland family and like all of our good friends who are Nebraska fans, they would host. Well, my dad and the Carpers are going to pick me up. Adam's done playing at this time. They're going to pick me up at my apartment in Shenandoah at like 4:30 in the morning. Okay. I drank this entire bottle of Maker's Mark with Chuck Moore. I didn't go to bed.
What?
So I went home. I got done working, and I just kept down in beers and Red Bulls just in my. I didn't go to bed. We go to Lincoln that day, just expecting, our nods out. Like this is going to be horrible. Maybe we can just potentially keep it close. We end up winning the damn game.
Yep.
And we're going nuts. Like we totally unexpected. We end up partying in the streets of Lincoln, shut the place down, and I'm pretty sure I was sick for 2 weeks after it.
But worth it.
That's so like all these games, it's like, well, what's your favorite? I have a very personal reason.
Yeah.
Because it was like I was starting this new chapter of my life. I was with my best friend and my dad. Like, just an amazing game. And then Rhoads, man, like I'm telling you, he's like fine wine. The farther this thing goes out, the more people are going to love him.
And then what happened was the speech after.
Yes.
I'm so proud speech.
And this is what tapped it all off.
That was a viral video before there were viral videos.
Let's hear it.
It was incredible.
We love you! Got people tired everywhere. Got people sore everywhere. I couldn't be prouder. I could not be proud. No. I am so proud! Listen to me! I am so proud to be your brother!
I still get chills.
Deion Broomfield in that room, who's now on the Iowa State coaching staff. I mean, there's the interesting part, and it wasn't just Arnott and A-Rob were hurt. Iowa State had the flu running through the team at the time.
There's guys thrown up.
Well, yeah. So one of my favorite quotes, Jim Knox was the sideline reporter for FS1 that day. And if you go back and watch the game, and obviously I have because I'm a loser, or maybe I'm a winner. I don't know. But Rhoads is talking to Knox at halftime. Rhoads is like, yeah, we got guys banged up. We got guys banged up. We got guys throwing up in the locker room. But we're fighting.
We're a tough football team.
It's just
freaking awesome, man.
He's one of those guys where, and this is why I'm so glad they talked to him this week, getting him back again, telling those stories, and Paul's still coaching, but that was one of those games where it gave Iowa State belief that it had been a long couple of years under Chiswick, but that gave everybody just felt really good about that team, and it was the 5th win. And so not only did you just beat a really good team, or Nebraska ended up okay that year, and Ndamukong Suh, I mean, they had some guys, but you were 1 win away from bowl eligibility, who nobody would have thought Paul Rhoads and this mishmash of Iowa State players would get to bowl eligibility. They do, and then they beat Minnesota in the bowl game that year. And it really, you guys, that 4-year run when Rhoads started 9, 10, 11, and 12, we thought, it was very similar to that. Not quite at the same level, but similar to that Campbell's first 4 years, where you thought this was going to take off. And then for various things, and they hit on them a little bit, the missile crisis didn't help with recruiting.
The missile crisis really hurt them.
I would say the replacement of Tom Herman was a poor hire.
Yep.
And just some bad luck generally in recruiting. And then the turnovers just stopped. Iowa State's first 3-4 years under Rhoads, they were one of the nation's best in turnovers.
The Wizard.
The 8, Wally Burnham, the 8 turnovers in that game were a big reason why. But
Wally Burnham, one of the great characters in Iowa State.
He is.
You sit down and talk to them.
Yeah, he was great. But that was one of those games where now we kind of take it for granted because Iowa State's competitive in all these games.
But at the
back
time,
then, you weren't supposed to be in that game.
Well, and we had this argument for a long time on the show. We've been doing the show together a long, long time. We used to compare that to Oklahoma State in 2011, where I know that was a bigger win. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But it's one of those things where is that win even possible without this one? Because this one changed everything. Like I remember at this time, Rhoads had not won over a lot of fans.
Well,
right?
it was still very much like, this is going fine, but we haven't played anybody yet.
And like they hadn't played anybody, and the offense was, we're kind of just waiting around but they had no talent, right? Like that win I thought gave them the ability to go out and get a Steele chance, and whatever Steele's career ends up being to you. But there were brighter days ahead, right?
Yep.
And it also gave you the ability to get a guy like Jake Knott, who's like, hey, I'm going to go walk on there. And like AJ Klein, because all of a sudden you do something. You have to do something early in these tenures.
Yeah.
It can't. So the book, I'm sorry, I keep mentioning it. I interviewed Greg McDermott last week, so it's fresh on the mind. And Greg talked about how oftentimes if you don't do anything in the first like 2-3 years at a place, your fan base will begin to work against you. And it's not that, but you have to think back in 2009. Like how much pressure, like from message boards and stuff like that, there were like if Rhoads doesn't have this is a trademark win. If he doesn't have that year, I just don't know.
Yeah, you wonder if it ever
right.
And
it helped recruiting a ton to see that video.
And it wasn't even just recruiting; it was the fan base loved the guy.
Yes,
and they fought honestly all the way to the end for that guy. And
Absolutely.
to this point, because he's a great person, local guy, he, as Jeff Woody eloquently said, he gave a shit, which is huge. And he wanted to be here.
Yeah,
and that's great.
It's the most Jeff Woody quote ever.
Yeah, but that game will always be remembered as kind of the Rhoads. That was that era in a lot of ways. It was like nobody believed in us. Our backs are against the wall. We had to find really creative ways to figure it out because we did not have the talent we do now.
Mm-hmm.
And they found a way. And guys, at the time, especially for your younger clones, Nebraska was a behemoth. They aren't now. Now my favorite analogy is they're the 70s rock band that's playing on the free stage at the state fair. That's what Nebraska football is now.
Yeah.
But back then they were the rock band. Like this, they were a big deal.
Yeah. They were still.
And to beat them in Lincoln, something you hadn't done in 30 years, was huge, huge. And the fact that Rhoads did it with a bunch of Iowa guys, and that was 2009 was one of those years where it just made you feel good about being a Cyclone fan. It really did.
Yeah, and if you were there, I know a lot of fans watching were probably there. It was an incredible to be there at that one. Like it was one of those moments where people stick around and like,
yeah, you didn't want to leave.
No, and then surreal. Like in Lincoln's pretty cool. It's like you leave the stadium and you can walk straight to bars, and like it's like a pretty good setup. And I remember they have like a beer garden type area, and it was just all Iowa State fans afterwards. It was awesome. Yep. It reminds me, the only other thing I've ever experienced like it was the Minneapolis Miracle, where nobody left the damn stadium when I was there. And like that to me, I think is my favorite win I've ever experienced during my time with Iowa State.
And the really neat part is it's the last time Iowa State's ever played in Lincoln.
Yeah.
Maybe the last time they ever play.
Go out on top, baby.
They own Lincoln. Paul Rhoads owns Lincoln.
Good stuff. Well, that was fun.
Can I just say Paul Rhoads should have been 2-0 against Nebraska?
Oh, Danny Keel. I know.
I'll never forget that.
The next year,
but
that was a
you
great
know
game.
what? Like
Nebraska was 7th that game.
Did he address that on the pod?
He did.
He mentioned it.
It
wasn't. I mean, but he still. Grant talks about it all the time. He's like, it was open. It was there.
Oh yeah, it was there.
It was a great. It was there.
Great call.
That play could change things too, because Iowa State wins that game against a 7th ranked Nebraska in 2010. You're bowl eligible.
Absolutely.
And then
Rhoads goes to bowls in his first 4 years.
If you remember,
and this is back when bowl games mattered.
2010, you lose in overtime to Nebraska, and that would have won the game. And then the next day, you go to Colorado, playing against a Fire Dan Hawkins led They had the Hawaiian guy, and Cody Hawkins was the quarterback.
They won. Colorado won.
Colorado bullied Iowa State, and Arnaz got hurt.
Yeah, that's where.
And then it was hard from there to. And then Missouri was the last game of the year. And
I remember the one. I think of like seasons by like what was the off-season story, and that led up to the. Was that the Tiller, Barnett, Jantz quarterback controversy? There was one year where that's all, or that would have been 12 or 11.
That was
11.
11. Jerome was ineligible. He was going to be the guy. Tiller was going to be the guy in 11. He was academically ineligible.
Okay, that's what happened.
And so it's like it was Steele Jantz or this freshman Jared Barnett, and it ended up being Steele, and then Jared.
But we didn't know Jerome was ineligible until right before the season.
Before the season,
because that was like this. I remember writing columns about that quarterback. I'd write like one a week, like on that quarterback.
Well, we thought Jerome Tiller. Well, he had won the game. That was his claim to fame. Was that Nebraska game, 2009, and then they moved him into receiver.
It's a great claim to fame, Jerome.
And they moved him to receiver.
Good on you, brother.
Yeah. Good. That game. That's one of those you'll look back on 20 years from now.
I want to get Barnett in here too. He's another guy we need to put on our list because he's local now.
Yeah.
Jared's around. He's great guy.
It's a good idea.
He's one that makes me feel really old too because he was like a kid, but now he's like, he's got kids and he's, oh man, good old days.
Yeah, good. But hey, kudos to Woody and Mahoney.
They're doing a great job.
It was an awesome interview, and man, just gave me a new appreciation and the fact that Paul came on, and he was very vulnerable in that interview.
Yeah,
I mean, he basically said that it was devastating to lose the Iowa State job.
That was his dream job. And I think that's
why fans are still going to fight for that guy to this day. And
that was a hard time because everybody knew that.
Yeah, and he said in the interview, he's like, I still wake up at night thinking about that K-State game. And it's just like, yeah, I see why. He wins that game.
The thing is,
I still think he's
to no fault of his own
coach next year.
Yeah, let's say the Kansas State game. Let's say Paul doesn't do anything different.
Mm-hmm.
If you simulate that game out 100 times, they're going to win every other time.
Yep.
Paul doesn't do anything different. It almost was like a fate type thing. Like,
makes you wonder.
Like,
for sure.
Because I get it. They wish that they could have downed it. And I understand all this stuff. But I'm just saying, if they do it 100 other times, they won't lose it another time.
And then
it's just really bad luck.
10 days later, Iowa State hires Matt Campbell. What a world.
Well, that was fun. Well, the next time we get together, it's not going to be as fun.
Uh-oh.
Because Sunday, we are going to talk about the Aaron Kraft game. What did Aiden text us last night? It made me laugh out loud. What do
you texted? Let me pull it up quick so I can get it verbatim. How about for tomorrow's games? 2009 football win over Nebraska. That's fun. Yang freshman year lost to Ohio State in round of 32. And I said, sure. And then we can go play in traffic after.
More. Yes, I want to talk about that game. That will be the centerpiece, but the forgotten Hoiberg team, I think.
Yep. Good stuff.
Looking at you, Will Clyburn.
Will Clyburn, Corey Lucius.
Looking at you, Corey. And that was an eventful NCAA tournament. We had teams talking shit. We were all in Dayton. The single worst town I've ever been to still, other than Iowa City.
I don't mind Dayton.
It's horrible.
Yeah. Okay.
We're going to do that on Sunday. And again, if anything breaks, I'll try and do something I don't think we're going to have any like big breaking news between now and then. My plan is to camp with the family on Saturday and Sunday night, and then I'll be back on Monday. So, but that is, I just want to be completely transparent. We are going to pre-record Sunday's show, so you guys still have something. And then we'll be back to normal as much as we can next week with the holiday. We will do a midweek pod to kick out before the holiday. So that's the plan. Aiden Wyatt producing, as always. We appreciate all of you. We couldn't do this without you. And again, we're thoughts and prayers with all of our friends up in Northwest Iowa. We're thinking about you. And if anyone you know is having an especially hard time, and maybe we can help raise funds, just let us know. We'll do whatever we can. He is Brent Blum. My name is Chris Williams. Hope you enjoyed today's show as much as we did, and we'll be back on Sunday. Later.